Okay, you beautiful New Zealanders. Well, as promised today, I said that I would talk about this guy. You can see on the screen his name is Anthony Willy. He's a legend. He's a judge. And this piece that he wrote was first posted on the 6th of March 2024, so it's pretty recent. Anthony Willy is a barrister and solicitor who served as a judge on 4 courts: the District Court, Environment, Tax and Valuation. He is also a former lecturer in law at Canterbury University. So this guy's no slug. He's well qualified to talk about the law. And he actually says that the treaty is not a partnership, and he's going to, in this paper that I'm going to take you through, say why it's not. He presently acts as an arbitrator, a commercial mediator, a Resource Management Act commissioner, and is a director of several companies. So he says about this idea of the treaty being a partnership, he says it's nonsense. He says, on a plain reading of the treaty document, anything less conducive to the notion of a partnership between the signatories is difficult to imagine. So first up, he says, when you just read the treaty, just read it for yourself. It's impossible to see that it's a partnership. You just can't get it from a plain reading of the treaty. So he goes on, it is therefore necessary to look elsewhere to find what breathes life into this myth. He calls it a myth. The idea that the treaty is a partnership, he says, is just a myth. And it is. There is much talk among Maori activists and Chris Luxon, our Prime Minister, and their camp followers. People like Erica Stanford believes this, the Minister of Education. There's a lot of high-ranking National Party MPs who believe this, and because Chris Luxon believes it, they've all got to believe it, because you can't not believe what the Prime Minister believes, and you're all called to believe the same thing, because that's how it is. There is much talk among Maori activists and their camp followers that there is a legal authority for the proposition that the treaty document constitutes a partnership. You know what? When you hear activists talking and you hear the Prime Minister talking, you hear MPs talking, they all say, oh, well, the courts. It's the courts. The courts have said that it's a partnership. Well, no. Anthony Willy blows the lid off that and says, no. It's not what the court said at all. You're just making it up. So he says that there is a legal authority for the proposition that the treaty constitutes a partnership between an indeterminate group of those claiming Maori antecedents and our sovereign government. He says there's no way. There's a lot of talk about this. Where are they getting it from? If it's not in the treaty, how do they come to this idea? The activists. Their case, or the case, relied on is the 1987 decision of the Court of Appeal in the State-Owned Enterprises case. So there was a court case in 1987, and it was called the State-Owned Enterprises case, and this is where the activists got their idea from, that the treaty is a partnership. It is therefore important, says Judge Willy, to understand what the court decided. Well, 5 judges sat in this court case: Judge Cook, Richardson, Somers, Casey, and Bisson. Their judgment ran 77 pages, so it wasn't a little document. It's quite a substantial document they produced with their judgments. Each judge gave an individual judgment. Some mentioned the word partnership, but only by way of analogy. They never ever said it was a partnership, the treaty. So they agreed on the outcome of their court case. In summary of what those 5 judges said, Judge Willy says, quote, none held that it is a principle of the treaty that on its signing in 1840 a partnership came into existence between Queen Victoria and the Maori inhabitants of New Zealand. None of the judges held that. That's what he says. None of them. Judge Anthony Willy's conclusion after reading the 77-page document, it is therefore clear beyond any doubt that the State-Owned Enterprises case is not authority for the proposition that a partnership as understood in our common law exists between the Crown and Parliament and some innominate group of people of Maori extraction. There you go. Judge Willy goes on to say, shorn of this blatant misreading of the case, it's the State-Owned Enterprise case, activists are left with only their wish list of wanting to share in the governments of New Zealand. Judge Willy says, given that these claims are devoid of principle their claims that the treaty is a partnership, that's the activist claims, common sense, or any legal basis, it is beyond time that our parliamentarians stop pandering such blatant self-serving nonsense. What Judge Willy is saying, you know what, the parliamentarians need to stop this, including Chris Luxon. Stop saying the treaty is a partnership, because it's not. Judge Willy says it is clear that David Seymour's bill, in whatever form it finally emerges, will go a long way towards putting an end to this racially divisive nonsense that's coming from the idea of partnership. David Seymour's bill, says Judge Anthony Willy, is deserving of the wholehearted support of the coalition government. If that results in a round of buttocks bearing and threats, then so be it. He says, if Maori kick up a great big storm, then don't worry about it, just keep going, because David Seymour's doing the right thing. Without a doubt he is. Then Justice Willy goes on to say, wiser heads among Maori tribes will soon prevail, and they will get on with what they do best, which is running their businesses. Now that's the end of Judge Anthony Willy's paper. So I have written that to the British in 1840, setting up parallel governments going on into partnership with Maori would have been unthinkable. The British just would not have done this. They just would not have made a partnership with Maori. And David Lawrie agrees. He said, did Queen Victoria for a moment think of forming a partnership with a number of signatures, a number of thumbprints of 500 people? Queen Victoria was not that sort of person. We can have a democratic form of government, or we can have indigenous sovereignty. They can't coexist, and we can't have them both. He's 100% right. Winston Peters is of the same mind. He said, does the treaty mean partnership? It is truly staggering that a claim of partnership for Maori is being based on the Treaty of Waitangi, when Queen Victoria was not in partnership with anyone in the UK or the British Empire on the day before the 6th of February 1840 or the day after. So Winston says it's a complete nonsense. And then Judge Willy in another paper said this, retired District Court Judge and Canterbury University Law Lecturer Willy Left noted, Maori and the Crown are not partners in any sense of the word. It is constitutionally impossible for the Crown to enter into a partnership with any of its subjects. Just before the law, you can't do it. So why did Lawrie, Willy and Peters say what they said? Why did they say that? The answer is, separatism is the antithesis of democracy. And democracy was the type of government installed by the British at Waitangi. If there was two different classes of citizens in this country, that would be separatism. Well, the British government did not set up a system of government that encouraged separatism. They installed democracy in 1840. We could rightly say then that when Maori activists and MPs like Chris Luxon talk of the treaty being a partnership, they are completely wrong. They're wrong for three reasons. First, the 5 judges in the state-owned enterprise case did not say it was a partnership. Second, significant other public figures such as Lawrie, Peters and Judge Willy say it was not a partnership. So smart people are saying it was not a partnership. Third, the treaty itself makes it clear that a partnership was not formed between Maori and the British. Maori became British citizens in the treaty. All citizens were therefore, before the law, made equal on the 6th of February 1840. If the treaty was a partnership between Maori and the British, then that would have made Maori superior to all other citizens in the country, i.e., there would have been 3 groups, the Crown, Maori, and the rest. In a democracy, there can only be 2 groups, the government and its citizens. That is it. The idea of partnership in the treaty creates a contradiction that can't be overcome. That is to say, Maori can't have the same rights as everybody else, that's like be British citizens, and at the same time be superior to everyone else. You can have one or the other, but you can't have them both. That's a juxtaposition of opposites, if you like. It's an antithesis, it's a contradiction, it's an ambiguity. Whatever term we use, the thought is the same. Maori cannot be superior to everyone else and at the same time be the same as everybody else. It makes no sense. Think about this also. If Maori and the Crown are partners, then MPs in Parliament who represent the Crown as the other partner in the treaty must also be superior to everyone else. Well, we all know they're not. See how silly the argument becomes when we say the treaty is a partnership? So let's be clear. The treaty is not a partnership between the British and Maori. It never was and never will be.
is still there.
Okay, let's talk about some of them. ACT wants to rewrite the treaty principles bill.
Absolute nonsense.
The principles is established by judges, politicians, lawyers, etc., are basically partnership, participation and protection. David Seymour, the ACT leader, says he wants to give the public a say. What is wrong with that in your view?
Yeah, well, he can, look, the document is about a partnership. The treaty is about partnerships, all right? Maori and the Crown, simple as that. You can't give the same rights to an immigrant to this country that has been long entrenched, not only in law but in our history since 1840. So while Seymour tries to...
Let's unpack that for a second.
Sure.
Sorry, because you drifted off, but what I heard was you can't give the same rights to an immigrant to New Zealand as opposed to someone who's indigenous to New Zealand. Is that what you're saying?
No, because what Seymour was saying is that actually every other New Zealander has the same rights as Māori.
Yes,
that's a nonsense.
Please share this video with everyone everywhere. The mainstream media should be reporting on the issues I am raising in these videos, but they're not. Why aren't they? Well, they're corrupt. Why are they corrupt? They are collaborating with Maori activists, there's no doubt about that. In the final analysis, the people of New Zealand, that's us, have ultimate power, not the politicians. Did you know that? The people can kick out the people in power and they can put them into power. How are we going to do that? Well, awareness is the key to change. If enough people in New Zealand become aware of the issues I am raising, we can save this beautiful country. So share these videos everywhere so that come the next election, we can vote the right people in and kick out the people who are destroying New Zealand.